Back in the day when I started, it wasn't many shops. Tattoos were mostly criminal culture, a lot of gangs involved. When I got my neck tattoo, I would get stopped on a subway by old ladies. They're like, oh, you're gonna go to hell.
Some artists paint on canvas, others carve in stone. Mikhail Andersson chose human skin as his medium. From Moscow's streets to New York's art scene, he transformed tattooing into a form of high art, fusing realism, geometry, and surrealism.
You have to take it slow. I feel like I did mistakes when I was trying to jump into something to do a realistic portrait when I've never done one. My perspective when I started, it was no social media. Some mentors that I had, they said, your work is your business card. Anything you put out there, it's your business card. I think the more kind of open-minded and more things you know, it's easier to adjust and to pivot from one to another.
He creates work that doesn't just decorate, it tells stories. At First Class Tattoos, he built more than a studio. He built a sanctuary where every line, every shade, every image is a transformation. This is Mikhail Andersson.
Being an artist, you need to see the world. The more art you see, the better stuff you create. If you made a certain amount of money, you not to put eggs in one basket. I think sometimes like little steps is even better steps forward. In the long term, it's gonna be better.
So, tell me about being a tattoo artist in Russia.
So back in the day when I started, it wasn't many shops. So it was very few shops, and tattoos were mostly criminal culture. It was a lot of gangs involved with the tattoos. It was biker culture. And I mean, there was a lot of beautiful tattoos, but it was not recognized. It's still not recognized as a job, as a profession in the country. So there's no code for it. So if you say you're a tattoo artist, everybody looks at you like, what, really? And then they try to enforce actually a thing. Recently, they are trying to put it as a medical procedure and make people do certification, but it's so stupid. Yeah, for tattooing. It's like, why? But when I started, it was like a taboo. I remember when I mean, people had tattoos. A lot of people do have tattoos there, but I remember when I got my neck tattoo, I forgot, it was like 2008 or something, and I would get stopped on a subway by old ladies. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna go to hell," and like stuff like that, just out of nowhere. You would just take in a subway to commute, and somebody will come to you like, be like, "What the fuck is that?" Or like, who just put the green shit on your neck? Oh, they're like, oh, it's tattoo. Wow.
So why did you, if it's obviously not part of Russian culture, like it is, but it isn't at the same time. It's like counterculture. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the way you're describing it, it sounds like when you started tattooing in Russia, it just sounds like Russia was like maybe like 20 years behind the US in terms of like tattoo culture.
Probably, yes.
So then the question is, where did the passion for tattooing come from when it was, what you grew up with was, gangs and all these other things that were kind of like affiliated with tattoos? What made you want to sort of get into this industry and build a career in it?
So, after school, I actually went to college for graphic design, and we had a lot of art classes. But I was hanging out with people. They were riding motorcycles and were into all this like heavy metal kind of.
So you were part of the culture,
rock culture. But I was young. But it was something. I don't know. I was like, my family was very strict, and I remember when I first got a piercing, I pierced my ear, and I came home. My mom saw it right away when I came home. It was probably 9th grade in school, and she was like, all right, if you don't take it out, you can just leave outside. She like packed my shit, then she put it outside, and she was like, you have to take it out. But I was like, but the other people, other guys have it in my school, like why can't I have it? But she was like, no, like you cannot have longer hair than this, you cannot have any piercing.
So you did the exact opposite of everything your parents wanted. Do you find that when you go to graphic design school, are there things that you've actually learned from design school that really, really help you in your job? Or is there a lot that you had to forget to become a good artist?
So we've actually had some stuff like marketing, and we had a lot of things like business related, but it was back in the day when there was no social media. So we learn things that do not apply to nowadays, whatever whatever we're doing. But I think in general, once you like, if the school is good or if the college is good, if you learn different aspects from different things, I think the more kind of uh, open-minded and more things you know, it's easier to adjust and to pivot from one to another. Um, because if they just teach you like a standard one thing and that's what you know, and then when things break down and you just being stuck because you cannot adjust your brain to something else, I think that's the thing. But I mean, I think nowadays or in general, you have to learn by yourself on your own. Like you have to find what inspires you, who inspire you, and like I always tell it, I even have a book. But it's actually funny. I've never even thought about it, but I always know in my head that the best way to learn something that somebody did is just to copy. And I always said it like the masters that painted like Caravaggio and stuff like that, they would make their apprentices to copy their pieces or parts of their pieces and copy over and over so they can figure it out how they did it and learn it. And then once they have that base, they can do something on their own.
Is that how you like? Is that how you learned?
No, but I'm in general, like I think it really applies to a lot of things. I tell my apprentices, like if you have somebody you really admire as an artist, I was like, take a piece and just try to draw the same, like exact the same. I mean, you first can trace and then you can try to put a paper there and try to copy it without tracing. And once you're doing it, you figure out, like you think what they thought when they created it. And like you see the lines, you see how they try to balance things, and it kind of imprints in your brain. And then the more you do, the more you understand that style or how they did it. I think it's like a good thing. And the same with like anything, video, photography, like find who you like and who you admire and what inspires you, and then try to copy it, try to figure out why and how they did it. I think it's like a good thing.
Like it's so interesting when it comes to creativity, because the first time you do anything creative, it doesn't even matter how passionate you are about it. It's always going to suck. Like it will always suck. Like if you're a graphic designer or you're creating video content, which is sort of my world, or if you're writing, or if you're actually drawing on someone's skin, like the first, I don't know. You can tell me if the first version of you as a tattoo artist sucked. It's very unforgiving, but I think that for most creatives, the first version really is not great. And the only way to get great is through just doing it again and again and again and again. But you made a good point. Like when you're drawing on someone's skin, you can't really do a do-over. So how do you get the confidence as a tattoo artist to say, okay, I'm not just going to be tracing and drawing on paper. I'm going to take my skill set and I'm actually going to draw on someone's skin, which is going to be with them for the rest of their life. Like, do you remember your first ever tattoo?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Well, I knew in my head that I cannot do anything complicated, so I started, and I forced my apprentices to do the same. I started doing just black, and then knowing that I can fill it with a black, so I like any designs when I started, I would do black outline and make sure that I can fill inside the lines with a black too. So it was like symbols or something small, but not small, because small you can still mess up the lines and they'll be crooked, but like mostly like black symbols that you can do outline and then you can fill it with the black. And then if the outline are crooked, you can just fix the lines a little bit. So I was doing that for a while, until I moved to something, and I was doing more like traditional or Japanese for a little while too, because you just do lines and the designs are pretty bold and big. So it's easier than to do something intricate and complicated. But yeah, I mean, you have to take it slow, because I feel like I did mistakes when I was trying to jump into something like to do a realistic portrait when I've never done one.
Like of someone's face.
Yeah, and
we all see those turn into memes on social media.
Of course, yeah, but that was before social media. I actually
Thank God.
I actually have a portrait on my leg that I lasered, but it was like the guy at the shop was like, I've never done a portrait, but he did realistic stuff like roses, animals, and stuff like that. And he was like, can I practice on you? So when you're in a tattoo shop, you're like, yeah, why not? This stupid idea. But I mean, now, thank God we have synthetic skin and fake skin that you can actually practice with, which doesn't feel exactly the same as a human skin, but you can practice on it and you can figure out the way you approach things and your skill, and then you can tattoo after on the skin, on actual human skin. But if I have an apprentice, I make them tattoo synthetic skin for a while if it's like complicated design, so they can build into it. But yeah, it is like a tricky thing, because when I first started, when you try to move into something different, and I feel like I got recognized on social media when I did something different with the tattooing, because I was like, oh, let me actually do watercolor on the skin. And that drew some attention, like a lot of attention, when I posted on social media, because it was something different from most people. And I was like, oh, I can do all these drips and like splatters as the color, because tattoo before, it's like what I have, it's like should be lines as black lines and like stuff that is like structural, right? So you can see what it is. But to put the color coming out of the lines and forming like a drip or some whatever, like a wash, how you do on the watercolor paper, not many people were doing it. It was like very few, maybe 2-3 people. And when I was like, let me do something. I mean, it's scary, you trying to do something different, but when you do it and then you post on social media, it gets a lot of attention, and you get a lot of attention. People are like, wow, because it is different.
How did you know? So take me back to like when you're first starting out in Moscow, and still kind of taboo, but obviously you love what you do. How did you know that tattooing was your calling? How did you know that this is something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life? Was there a moment? Was it gradual? Was it when you came to the U? Like, what was the thing that was like, this is it, I need to do this for the rest of my life, I'm so passionate about this? And I'm assuming it was difficult at the beginning to make money. Like, I don't think there was any money at the beginning.
Really difficult for a few years, actually. I think I was doing more money when I was doing graphic design. And I also did freelance graphic design. I was making a lot, because each single thing, like a website or branding for a company, was like $1,000 that you make out of it. And tattoos, when you started and there was no Facebook or Instagram or like social media, it wasn't... like, you have to do a tattoo, and then people only recommend you if they see it on somebody, and people come to, or unless you have a website. And then you cannot charge much money because you're just starting. So I literally, when I tattooed first half a year, I think I asked people to cover supplies. So I would just do something and just ask them to pay and cover supplies. So I literally, from making decent money, I went into sleeping on an air mattress because I couldn't afford much. But I don't know, like I really was drawn by, like, I've been around tattoo artists back then, and I had a lot of tattoo artist friends that tattooed, and I just loved the energy. I loved the people that did it. It was like, it was different from corporate world. My parents were trying to push me to work in a corporate or work for a company, and I did work for a company for a little bit, but I wanted that freedom of like making art on people and hanging out with interesting people, because it was always in a tattoo shop, so all kinds of people. It's actors, gangs, drivers, politicians, all kinds of people, and its stories. It was really fun. It was like almost a rock band on tour, with like just people come together, get drunk, or go play with a strike ball or something, or like, and then do art at the same time. And everybody had stories, everybody traveled around, and I don't know, I was just drawn to it back then. I didn't know that I'm gonna do it for the rest of my life. I don't know, I was really, it was something different, and I wanted to literally live inside a tattoo shop. I feel like first few years when I worked at a shop, I was there every day, like 24/7. I just wanted to be around people. I wanted to see what they do, how they do it, and it was amazing, I think. And even after the shop was closed, when I was here in Florida, we would go hang out together and like skateboard and do some stuff, like people from a shop. It was like almost a community.
how do you define good work or a good tattoo? Like, what is your litmus test for quality outside of it just not looking good? Because we've all seen bad tattoos, but what is your quality, your sort of gauge?
I mean, I think a lot of aspects from it should be well done, that it's going to age well. It should be placed correctly and be flowy with the body, because every single place is different. And like, for example, I have certain parts of the arm, when I twist it or when I bend, it's going to distort whatever I place there. So if we put in a portrait or we put in something, we have to place that it's not going to distort in a place that is visible. And there's a lot of things that come to mind that I've learned. For example, if you're tattooing a face and there's a shadow side and a light side, and your arm the same, when the arm is completely down, when the sun hits the arm, this will be a light side and this will be a shadow side. You don't want to put a shadow side of a portrait on the light side and put a light side the opposite way, because anytime somebody's gonna wear the work, it's still natural light hits it that way. And if there's a shadow side and the light side, it's gonna look a little weird. It's better when the shadow side where the arm's shadow side is. And then it's like that. It's little things that I don't know, I don't keep in mind. It's more natural because I've done it so many times, but and I don't think about it physically, but those things make sense. It's like art, and whatever is in the world, everything has laws and physics to it. I think
Are these sort of universal art rules, or are these more specific to tattoo?
I mean, there's all universal art rules and like things as a color theory. I think it applies to painting and tattoos and all kinds of stuff. But I think tattoo looks good, in my opinion, that it's well designed, it placed well, and that it's gonna age well for at least 10 years.
At least 10 years. And when you say a tattoo's aging well, that means it's not fading, it's not looking like how old are the tattoos on your arms? Because they look good.
Everything's pretty old. I mean, those are probably 8 years.
That's not bad for 8 years.
Yeah. Everything, like, last tattoo I've got on my leg was in 2020, so I think if tattoo is done well, it should look really good. And in my opinion, a good tattoo should be, once you go closer to a person, it should look good. But once you also step far away, you should recognize what it is. Like, if I'm further than you are and I see what you have on your arm, it shouldn't look like a mess. I should see at least that it has some flow, or what it is that you have. That, in my opinion, is a good tattoo.
When I was looking up some of your past work, you had a test for quality, and I'm curious if it still applies, because you had mentioned that if you remove the color and it still works as black and white, then that's a very good indicator of a good tattoo. Is that still the case?
Yes, especially for color tattoos. I think the color tattoo should have value, because a lot of people would tattoo all these colors, even if it's a flower, for example. They would tattoo all these colors, but it doesn't have enough contrast. So there's not enough black, or it doesn't even have to be black. I have actually a rose tattooed on me, and a guy didn't use any black on it. I don't know why, but the color theory and the color balance works so well that there is enough from the light tones to dark tones, which I think for any tattoo, especially color tattoos, black and white, you see it's values that are from black to your skin. And a lot of black and gray people that tattoo black and gray, they use the skin as the lightest tone and a black as the darkest tone. So they use, when the light tones are, they just use your skin. So it's a contrast like that. But when people tattoo colors, some people make it look a little messy, because they put, if you turn it into black and white, there's a lot of the same gray tone into the colors with not enough values to it. So if you turn black and white, it almost look like a muted paper that put over, like almost like what you have a carpet. It's like all the same tones, but they're different colors. They'll be red or blue or something else, but they're all the same, and it just doesn't have enough contrast. So that's an indicator of a bad tattoo, in my opinion. Because if you look at a traditional, there's skin is left as a light tone, and it's even if it's a one bold color, but there's still skin between the line and the color.
Contrast too.
Yeah, so it gives it that huge contrast from color to the skin. But a lot of people, when they do realism or they do something with the colors, they don't have it in their head. They don't keep it in their head to be to keep those values. So you need to think like design. I like putting a design and looking in a mirror to see it flipped, so I could see the issues when design is unbalanced. Because when you see it with your eyes, you kind of, once you're working on it, you're used to what you see so much. Then if you go to the mirror, it flips it.
It forces you to see it differently.
It forces you to see it differently. And it was actually interesting. I was looking at some photographers, and I think it was Cartier-Bresson or somebody with a big name. He like was reviewing somebody's portfolio, and the guy was describing, he brought him photos, and he just put the photos upside down. He just looks at photos, and the guy was like, why are you looking at photos upside down? And he was like, I'm just looking at light and balance with the shapes. I'm not looking at photo is in a normal way, but I want to see if it's all composition and balanced if it's upside down. So it's like trick your eyes with, you put something or you draw something on paper and you just go in a mirror and put it in front of the mirror and look at it, and then you'll see mistakes or directional lines or diagonal lines or imbalance with, like, sometimes if there's too much on one side, you have to balance it somewhere in the opposite way, so it kind of has like a counterbalance in things.
This is so interesting. So I've also, what you're describing, I've experienced in a different context. So it's almost like when you're a creative and you spent too much time on a piece, and I write a lot. So sometimes I've noticed that when I write, say I'm writing on my laptop and I want to publish a piece, I don't know if it's similar or different. Maybe it's the same mechanism in the brain, but I'll actually read it on a different screen or on a phone or on anywhere else, or I'll read it the next day. I'll read it somewhere else so that I can actually pay attention to the things that I, for some reason, when I'm actually creating it in the first version of it, it's like your brain is trained to skip over the problems. But if you find a way to consume it in another way, mirror, flipping it upside down, sending it to yourself, for me, and like reading a piece on a phone as opposed to on a laptop, all of a sudden your brain sees all these problems for the first time that were always there, you just couldn't see them. So I think that that's an interesting thing as a creative, because you get so involved in your work, and I think that there must be some psychology reason why your brain passes over these flaws when you're staring right at them, because you should see them, but you don't. And this is a way to recognize the flaws in the work.
I think it's the same, like what you said is the same in art. And I think we just get used to, if we would see it the first time and there is mistakes, it would bother us. But if you give it to somebody and they would read it, if they are professional in that field, it would bother them. Like I had people in a shop that work with me, they usually, especially people who did apprenticeship with me and they would make a design and they kind of are like stuck with something, and they bring it to me, and me like just briefly seeing it, I see all mistakes right away, and I was like, just move this a little bit to the left and make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, that what you said, I think it's exactly the same as like if you type it on a laptop, you put on a phone and you read it from your phone, or in a different environment, you start seeing other mistakes or other things.
Who do you study? Because you've mentioned that you study painters, not like modern painters. You study Renaissance painters, traditional art. Who do you study that sort of influences you, teaches you, and why?
As painters, or
I guess, well, you tell me. I mean, do you study classical painters? Do you study Renaissance artwork? Do you study other tattoo artists? Like, who is your, I would say, mentor that doesn't even know you exist? Who's the person that you study?
I like a couple tattoo artists that I always watch, yes. And
maybe they do know you exist, but
yeah. And I think in my world, the thing is, if you want to see how somebody works, just go and get tattooed by them. It's like the easiest thing. It's the same with probably you. If you want to learn how somebody does a podcast, just go and get in a podcast with them, and you'll see the whole exact setup. You'll see what they ask and how they approach things. And this will be probably expensive but the quickest lesson for you, because you don't have to sit and figure things out with a trial and error. You go to somebody who is established and very good in their style, and I guarantee you they did the same. Like, I know people that are top, they usually hang out around the top, and they usually hang out around the people, or hang out before, or grow up together or something else, that do things really well in their style. That's what it is. You have to be around something like that, because figuring things out by yourself, it's going to take years, and I think that's the easiest way. But I do study a lot of different things, and I like to be diverse. I don't want to be stuck just in art, and I've studied art history actually in college, and I had to pass an exam on it, from probably icon paintings. And the interesting thing is, like, we have in regular paintings, we have perspective, and we have to follow perspective. In icon paintings, the perspective goes in you, in a viewer, in their solar plex. So the icon paintings, as considered after all these rock paintings, when the people start painting religious stuff, all the perspective from the painting goes inside you, as you as the center. And it's very interesting. No, like, a lot of people don't talk about it, but it is like that.
Can you explain that? Because I want to understand this. So what do you mean by
perspective? So once you draw a cube, right?
Yes.
The lines, that is the sides of the cube, they go and they come together, yes, as a perspective, because things, as further they smaller and they go like this. But when there's icons of, like, saints or something else, if you look at the perspective, their perspective goes into center of you, as they would think that this is the solar plex as the center of the universe, so everything goes into you.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I've never
not a lot of people talk about it, but like, I had to study classical art, and from phases from to modern art to pop art to all that stuff, and know exactly.
And this was like around so this particular idea
in college.
No, not sorry, I didn't mean when you studied. I meant this particular idea. These would be paintings of, like, kings or religious leaders or things like that would have this particular perspective.
Yeah, the perspective goes into you. It's an interesting thing. But then they switch to, like, how they see the world. They would switch to the perspective as it goes, like how we see it with the eyes.
So you still, I mean, but when you study, first of all, I think that art history is fascinating. I don't know much about it compared to you, obviously. But when you study that, does that impact, like, how you do your work? Do any of those themes actually cross over into modern day, or no?
Yeah, of course. But I don't think I've had it in that deep, but I've actually spoke or watched some seminars of, like, modern days, like, oil painters, when they describe certain things, like, if they take the Renaissance painting and they just put it in Photoshop, and the same with that black and white that I say, but they would turn in black and white the painting, and then they would push the contrast to the max as possible, right? And they would say, hey, look, the light shape frames, everything is light and connected, and the dark is almost all connected as well. So if you push it, so certain things, once you study, you start to understand how the contrast work, how the light works, and stuff like that. It definitely helps with the tattooing and modern day tattooing, even in any style, I think.
Do you think that, okay, so this is now fast forward to we were chatting about this before we press record. So now there's so many AI tools that help you create, right?
Yes.
And the one issue with AI tools is, of course, for a graphic designer, yes, it could in theory replace their job. But I made the comment, for a tattoo artist, I don't think that it's going to be replacing your job anytime soon, unless there is some sort of automated device that can draw art on a human body without a human holding the pen or the. But I think that the bigger issue is that the amount of knowledge that you have. I think that younger artists are going to outsource a lot of that learning to AI tools. I don't, like, if, for example, if somebody wants a tattoo, do you see a younger artist going on, like, a chat GPT asking for a design?
They probably do.
And then yes, can you trace that design? But do they actually understand why that design is good? I don't think that if they do that, they'll know even a fraction of what you just told me.
I think the artist should know basics and should know the art history and composition and how the light works, because we actually do tattoo removal at a shop, and I just had, it was actually funny. The guy came in, he just got a tattoo, and it was a scorpion that was probably AI generated. And it's been for past maybe half a year to a year, people would bring AI generated images as designs to get tattooed, because they don't go on Google and search, hey, I want a scorpion, and find a photo of a scorpion. They type in a chat GPT, a scorpio tattoo, and a chat GPT generates it. But sometimes it generates it unrealistic. So the guy came into an artist with the image, and they tattooed it. It was probably made in AI, and one claw is different than another claw on an image. And then the guy got tattooed super clean, super nice. And then he came home, he looked at it, he started Googling, and he didn't find exact scorpion. He was like, I've never seen scorpions like this. And he came in, and he was like, hey, I just got tattooed yesterday. It was not in my shop. He was like, I just got a tattoo yesterday. He was like, I know you guys do laser. He was like, can we just laser this claw?
So like, I mean, like that, yes. So, but the tattoo artist still, like, is there no I like, maybe you're gonna say, well, there, you know, if the client comes in with a drawing, then we just do what the client wants. Yeah. But there has to be responsibility on the tattoo artist to be like, okay, maybe this isn't the best design.
Yes, it should be on everybody. I feel like my perspective when I started, it was no social media. Yeah. And what I've been taught by some mentors that I had, they said, your work is your business card. You tattoo on somebody, if I walk around and you see this and you're like, oh my God, holy shit, this is amazing. You're going to be like, hey, who did it? And I was actually flying to here, and I saw a lady in the airport with a tattoo, and I knew who did the tattoo, because some styles are recognizable and some people do specifically. Like, I knew exactly who did her sleeve, and the girl worked for me before. I didn't say anything, I didn't interact, but you go, especially now when it's warm, you go and you see something amazing. You're like, holy shit, who did it? Even if you don't want to get that tattoo, but it might catch your interest. So I think anything you put out there, especially tattoos, because it's hard to erase, it's your business card, and my business card. And if somebody comes and they're like, hey, this is an AI generated image, or if there's, especially with AI, it has issues with hands. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's always six fingers.
Always like, so if somebody comes with the image, and I mean, if I put it on somebody, even if the person likes it, what if other people gonna make fun of it, and then the person just gonna have a trauma, you know, and because of what I did on them.
So you turn people away?
No, I try to suggest to do something different. I think it should be. Like, a tattoo artist should be very good at psychology, and they should be very well with the clients, try to make them feel comfortable and understand if there's something that needs to be bigger, if something needs to be changed. I think the client should see that perspective, and tattoo artists should take time and show them, or have some examples and show, like, hey, this is not gonna work. Because what you see online, especially now with all this editing tools, Photoshop and all other stuff, is sometimes it's not the same as what you see in person. So a lot of people should be careful nowadays, because things gets adjusted. And then I've seen tattoo artists even post their work that never been done, and they just throw Mike Tyson portrait in ChatGPT, put there, can you do this as a tattoo? ChatGPT generates the image, and then they post it on their social media saying, hey, I just tattooed that. And it looks real unless you zoom in and you don't see the lines. It's too real to be true. Yeah. Like, tattoo.
But that's just fake. Then.
Yeah, it's fake. But they, since the whole thing started with AI, some people keep doing it, and they get clients out of it. But I feel like more it goes on, more people start realizing, and they start doing research, because there's things like Reddit and all kinds of stuff when people post actual things, and the more information is there. Or I would trust somebody, like I said, like, I go to the gym and I see somebody's tattoo and I'm like, wow, and it's healed, and I'm like, wow, I want a tattoo like that. That's the person I would go to, because I know I've seen something that I like and I want something similar. Instead of going into somebody's Instagram and seeing all these pictures that they tattooed, but they can also use Photoshop or AI generative tools to clean it up and do all kinds of stuff to it, which I think is going to turn more into stuff like that. But I mean, AI, to be honest with you, is a great tool. I feel like it helps to save time during the research. So sometimes you need to put different things together and the client will come with like a huge concept. And instead of just doing a research on your own and searching like some historical things. I've had a client that came in and he was like, I want to have a battle that there's no photos or drawings from the battle from like between Irish and German from like whatever World War One, and there's no photos. But he was like, I want Germans to wear when it was World War One, but was a small part somewhere that they fought. And the same with the Irish, and I just threw it in AI, and AI helped to like generate and do research.
It's good for research. It's good for
certain things. And the same with like creating a concept. If you're saying, some people will come and be like, hey, I want like something as a mix, like a stingray floating in outer space or whatever. I mean, I can do it myself. I've done things like that. But I'm just saying for people that are having a hard time visualizing it, or like you have an idea but you have a hard time, you can type in Midjourney and in different versions and see what it generates. And I've seen photographers do it for concepts. They just say, hey, I want a photo of beautiful woman as a Renaissance painting standing in front of the castle with like this and this and this and this yellow dress and dress floating. They put all these tags and it creates the concept with the light. Even you don't like the light, but you can take the concept and then you can go to a costume designer and say, hey, can you make me something similar inspired by this as a dress? And then you look for locations, you start looking and you look for the light similar inspired on that, and then you create your own. You don't have to copy anything that AI generates, but it helps.
It's a tool.
And the same with marketing, I think. Like I was flying on a plane, I see people type like, I don't know, the guy was doing some business and he was like typing what's the most unemployment states, and he puts all these things together using AI like super quick for his company. And I was like, well, I mean, do research by yourself using Google and reading articles. It's harder versus you type it there and it
NetSuite is a success story partner. Now, what does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market, interest rates are rising, they're falling. Honestly, at the end of the day, we just need a crystal ball. But until then, over 42,000 businesses have trusted and future-proofed themselves with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one cohesive platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth giving you the visibility and control that you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. And when you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. If I needed this kind of business management system, NetSuite is exactly what I'd use. So whether or not your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges in your business and seize your biggest opportunities. And speaking of opportunity, you have to download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning. The guide is free for all listeners. That's netsuite.com/Scott Clary. Indeed is a success story partner. Now, say you just realized your business needed to hire someone fast. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs, there's no monthly subscription, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Just go to Indeed.com/Clary right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Clary. Terms and conditions apply. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need.
When did you start making money? And also, what was the thing that differentiated you, or what was the thing that you did that allowed you to make exceptionally more money at tattooing than the average artist?
So I feel like when after probably a year and a half, I started making some money
Moscow?
in Moscow. Yes, probably about 2 years that I was being able to pay for my bills and put money in a savings. And there was still no social media, but I wanted to spend money as traveling. That was my biggest goal because I feel like being an artist, you need to see the world, you need to experience things. And the more, how I said, the more soulful you are, the more art you see, the more different people from different countries you meet, the better stuff you create. So I was literally working to save the money to see other countries or go to other shops and learn.
Just like live as much as possible.
Yes. And it was like my biggest goal. And then I feel like I started making decent amount of money when I moved from Florida to New York, actually, because New York was a turning point. When I moved to New York, the Instagram became as a thing and people started using Instagram as posting their portfolio and building their clientele. And it was basically when it just started. But I remember a few times when I got reposted by big publics and I would get like 10,000 overnight just for tattoo I did. And it was insane that I did something different. Somebody reposted it and all of a sudden my email is full. I would get 10, 15 emails overnight and a day. And it was like a ball rolling, you know, once you do something different, once you hit a point, then you all of a sudden have all these bookings. Because when I was here in Florida,
so you went Moscow, Florida first. That was the first spot that you landed after moving.
I mean, I was in New York first. For me, when I first started traveling, I went to Europe a lot. I've been to Europe so much, to different countries.
Of course, but not living.
Not living. I've stayed in Germany for like 3 months, but I've had friends there. I've been to Spain, to Finland, to Sweden, Norway, all kinds of stuff. But I came to New York first because for me it was like, oh, let's come to States and just buy supplies and see the shops. It wasn't, I didn't want to stay here, but I wanted to meet other artists and experience things and see how the shops are, because in Russia, shops were way different than here. Like here was actually some shops in Vegas or Miami. It was like a parlor where people already had iPads as portfolios, TVs. It was like a setup booth.
Oh, you said in Russia wasn't even a business.
Yeah, for each thing. Yeah. And it was lines of people, but it was because first I think Miami Ink brought a lot of attention to a thing, and it was when it was on a national TV and then it was distributed to the world, people saw it. I think that draw a lot of attention. And back when I was in Florida, actually, Miami was the #1 city in the States, or maybe in the world, for the popularity of tattooing.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So
probably because of the show, I'm assuming.
Yes, of the show. And people will fly from South America. We had people that would fly, and when they got tattooed, they're like, oh my God, it's like in Miami Ink show. Like, so many people said that comment when I was tattooing them. When you create something, and like I watched the show, but I didn't watch everything because I didn't have time back then. And when you're tattooing, they're like, oh, it's like he's doing almost like they did on a show. And it was like so interesting to see that. But we had lines out of the door. Like I would make, it was crazy because I would make like $1,000 in tips back then.
And you were, at this point, this was not your own shop.
No, I was working for somebody. But you're like hustling all day and you work in the shops was open. Like first we were open till a certain time, and then they decided to even keep it open all night too, and you're like slammed with clients. You're like 6, 7, 10 tattoos a day, and you keep doing it. It was like tourists coming in, people from all over the place, which eventually oversaturated the market. But because people saw opportunity, how it is, and then everybody started opening shops here.
Where there's money.
Yeah. And then it's like boom, nobody has work. Everybody's like, oh, what's going on? But I mean, I feel like New York was a turning point for me when I moved there, and when Instagram became a popular thing, especially for tattoo artists. It was a tool, almost photographers and tattoo artists. It's like a wall where you put your work and people can scroll and see your work. Because website is one thing. If somebody types tattoo artist in New York, there's shit ton of websites that pay for ads, Google ads, SEO, like all that kind of stuff that pop up. And if you make a website, even you put the words there, you're not gonna come up on the first 3, 4, 5 pages. Nobody's gonna find you. But Instagram was like, you post and you can get there from just posting one work. And I remember when I've had it was probably one work just made me like really a lot of clients overnight. I've started getting emails because I did some different than people are doing there, and it was like a bull roll, and it started, and I had to keep going with it, you know.
When did you open your own shop? So this was First Class Tattoo.
Yeah, the shop I opened in 2016. I worked.
This was on Canal Street?
So when I first got the spot, it was a cheaper rent because the area was basically all Chinese stores and it was warehouses there, and I was looking for area that I can afford myself, even if nobody works for me. If I work, I can pay that rent a month, and I still make money. So that's why I got the shop there. But then other people that own buildings, they saw opportunity. They're like, oh, the guy got a shop, and there's people coming in and wealthy people coming in. They were like, instead of having their own store downstairs, they're like, I can rent this space to somebody else. And they started renting space, so it's almost became gentrified.
So you started the gentrification of Canal Street.
Yeah, pretty much. So now that area is so much different that people who live there, they know what I'm talking about. People who just moved or never been to that area, they probably wouldn't say. But I was one of the first businesses they changed it. And also they built a hotel, which was a place there, was the first Chinese bank, which is a 9 Orchard. But for first, I think 5, 6 years, it was still under construction. It was all stuff there. But now it's an open hotel, and it's a lot of celebrities that come there, and it's all like black cars and SUVs all over around, because like I bump into Kylie Jenner, I bump into Jared Leto staying in a hotel. It's all celebrities staying there, and it's literally next door from us, like literally next door.
That's so funny. So you were the first shop, and then everything started to change.
And it became like people would see opportunity. They would open a coffee shop here, coffee shop there. I think 4 coffee shops opened in the last 10 years, literally. And it like floods the people there, and people start renting spaces. And
this is all good for everyone.
The whole Orchard Street, like a street when you walk from my shop before 2020, it was all like shitty kind of small dirty stores, because the whole area before was Jewish, like Hasidic Jews owned it. And then they saw opportunity. I've even had people like Hasidics would come to me and they're like, hey, do you want to open another store? We see how successful you are. Yeah. They almost wanted to sell me a building there in Orchard Street. They came in there like, we'll sell you a building for $1 million. You can put whatever you want there. Because for them, they would have their own store and they would rent apartments, but it's a lot of work. But if they rent it for somebody, you have to take care of space, you like take care of all the maintenance, and you attract also a lot more, and they don't have to do anything. They just make money. So they wanted like successful things. So last 4 or 5 years, all that stuff became like a completely different area that it was. And I feel like me and maybe that hotel kind of people saw, and the rent is cheaper because Lower East Side was always more expensive rent. I was looking for stuff there. And when I went there, I was like, they started from 10 grand and up 10 years ago. It was literally like 10 grand for like small space, and it would go up.
How much is it now?
I don't know. Which in area where I had the store, it was like 5 and up. It was much cheaper, but nobody wanted to rent there because there's nothing around. Because when I first signed a lease, I would go and look for like a coffee or tea. I go to a store. It was literally a sign was in Chinese. I go inside and I was like, can I get this? And they're like, no, speak English. And I was like, okay. It was like everywhere like that. But now it's a completely different area. But people who live there, they would know what I'm talking about. So I think sometimes you make something successful and like people around, they see, okay, there's different class, different people coming there. And they're like, maybe we can open businesses there too.
Well, so just to paint a picture for people that are listening, like, again, we're talking a lot about obviously tattoos and the tattoo industry, but as an entrepreneur, so you you spent how many years before you actually started to build your own thing? Like, how many years have you actually done the math? Like, how long you were like working, mastering your craft, putting in the reps before you actually built something successfully that was your own?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
No, like 9 years probably.
Yeah. And when you did make that jump, because now I know a little bit more, because again, we were talking about some of the other things that you're working on. You're actually very risk adverse. So I think you're very smart. You do things very thoughtfully, which I think is probably why you're successful at it. But when you start something new, even like some of the stuff that you're working on right now, like some of the sort of the, not side hustle, that's putting it lightly, but like some of the other projects that you're working on, you don't just completely forget about the main thing and then start something new. You keep the main thing going and then you build something on the side. Kind of like, and I'm curious how you actually started like your first shop. You're working, you're saving money, you're learning, and then you start the shop, but you did it successfully. So was it starting the shop while you're still working, or did you save up a certain amount of money, or did you understand how long it was going to take you to be successful at building your own company? And like, that's how you sort of modeled out how much money you needed in the bank. Like, how did you actually start as this, like, that's the first time you're an entrepreneur?
I was working, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I was building a shop.
That's smart.
I was building, I started researching just how to name it, the brand and all this stuff. I mean, now there's more tools as far for AI to do all this stuff, but I was just doing that on my own and like thinking in my head what will be successful, and doing a website. And at the same time, I was working literally like every day, and I was looking for spaces. I would meet the brokers in the morning, look at spaces, see how much it cost. And it was scary because I've had money in a bank. I saved up probably 100K before I signed a lease, and it's not much money to open a business, but for me, when you work for somebody, back then it was a lot of money. And when I got the place, I didn't even have like, I had idea in mind. I put it kind of like, I want black and gold as like design inside and stuff like that, because the broker also, when they rent a commercial lease and you never had a physical store or something like that, they're looking at you, oh, you're gonna rent, you're gonna fail. So they're like, oh, can you send us PDF of what the concept is going to be, what the colors are going to be, what in terms of like construction
like
you're going to do. Yeah, like a whole business plan, even if it's just a small store. So I've had to do all of that, and I was tattooing at the same time. So it was like that. And then when I first signed the lease, I've had people doing constructions, which was also bumps, because I got a place and I was like, what I'm actually gonna do with it, because I was like, let me do a research and find somebody who can put a design together. I mean, I have a concept, but I actually need a designer, because if somebody wants to build, they want to see references and stuff like that. So I start calling people and they're like, well, we're going to charge like $40,000-$50,000 just to put a design together and rendering. And I was like, well, it's like half of the money I have. I was like, no. So I asked the company that signed me the place, that gave me the lease. I was like, do you know any construction workers? So they gave me people, and I was like, okay, talk to them what I want. And I was trying to do like cosmetic things, and price was okay. He was like, I'm gonna charge you whatever, 5,000 a week, or like something, without the materials for labor. And me, because I was working and I wasn't there a whole time when he started doing it, they took another 2 projects on the side, and they would just literally work there a little bit and go somewhere else and work there, which few times I took a break from work and I went there and I noticed nobody's there, so it turned into a whole issue, and I had to hire somebody else to do it, because like those people, they said, oh, we're gonna finish in a month or 2, whatever,
and they kept dragging it up.
Yeah, they keep pushing and just doing like basic stuff that was taking forever, because they took 2 other jobs. So I had to control that, but I found other people that would do it. And then I started, based on the concept, I started just looking online what I can buy in terms of furniture that would fit with the style, because I was like, I cannot afford somebody to put me like a list of what to buy and stuff together for like $20,000-$30,000.
So you have to bring people over. You start doing the tattoos in your own shop. Now you're making 100% of what they pay you, which is great. But what are the normal splits? Like when you work in a
So
shop?
back when I worked, it was 50-50. Now it turned more of like people doing 40-60.
Who
So
gets paid more?
the artist pays more.
Okay. So,
Or like some shops in California, Florida, probably certain shops chair rental a month, or certain shops are like 70-30, 70 to artist and 30 to the shop. But New York, because of the expensive cost, is very hard, because here if I rent a space or I buy a space, it's way less money than in New York for like for every single thing for expenses. But it is like a norm of like 60-40 split, for 60 to the artist, 40 to the shop. Um, and I also had people in mind that I worked with before. One guy was an apprentice, another was a friend of mine that came to States a few times, and he said if I open a business, he'll come and join. So I've had some people that had like an interest to come, but it was mostly me just working. And I remember when I first started, a lot of things in terms of marketing was trial and error, because like you have a store, you did a sign outside, right? But how to bring the people in? Like I put the Google ads, I put the money into it.
you have Instagram. You're
I
posting
took
your
it
work.
almost
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I put it in Instagram, and then certain things came as like nobody was doing videos, and a customer reached out to me, which was a videographer, and she was like, I want to do a tattoo in exchange for a video, and I was like, sure. And I was one of the first, I think, first tattoo artists that ever posted a video of like an actual video, not just a clip with a phone, of like professional camera video shot on a professional cameras to post of the whole tattoo shop and a process. And it brought a lot of attention, because the person I worked for before, actually after I posted the video, he got pissed and he sent me a message. Because when I left, he was like, I'm happy for you, like you did your own, blah, 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 blah. But when I did a video and it got a lot of attention on social media, he sent me an angry message. He was like, "Oh fuck you," like blah blah blah, because nobody did it before, and I was the first person who ever
Did
did.
he ever try and sue you for anything?
No. Um, they actually stole an artist from me that was my apprentice, but it's okay.
What was sort of like the lowest moment, or the one thing that was really something you had to go through as an entrepreneur that you hope nobody else would ever have to go through when you were building your shop?
I think the first worst moment, when I actually had a few people working for me, and the manager that was probably a really like a best manager, but they started building a business outside of my business. But like what I did to somebody that I worked before, they had a much bigger business that I have, and when I left, it didn't affect them. But for me, like if I hire 3 people and 3 people leave and there's only 4 people working for me, that was like a big thing, because they took a whole client base.
And they did that?
Yeah, and they and went and opened a space and took the best manager out of 3 managers I had. They took a general manager and they took them to work for them, because they offered her a commission or something, more money that I was paying her. And it was really, that was like one of the first painful thing that happened to me. And then certain other things, like I hate to bring it up, but I've had it happen multiple times when people make relationships inside the business. Like I would hire, it was like multiple people working there, like 9 people, but then somebody is like start dating somebody, and then potentially can turn into a drama, which few times happened. That was like always a red flag for me, always an issue. Um, and then I feel like another thing, we don't see ourselves from the outside, right? But if I would come here and I would be wearing like a medical stuff, you would assume I'm a doctor, right? It's like called power of authority. So once you become somebody, if I'm a boss, people take me a different way. So I felt like when I've had a few celebrity clients and I got a little bit of popularity, some people come into the life just to try to use you, but you don't see it that way, because you don't, like, I haven't had experience with that before. Like everybody that I consider that wants to hang out or talk like personal things, I consider as a friend, but people were trying to use just to gain something for their personal stuff, for their interest. So it's a lot of those, and I feel like my last marriage was the same too, because I mean, it's sad to say, but the person came into the life when was working for somebody, and like I build the person up, and she learned so much from me and is doing same things. That's what I taught you her. Like that's what I see through all the posts, even if after we're broken up and all that stuff.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, but it's like I've never experienced that, and I guess you learn the hard way with like uh, walking with somebody that presents themselves as a different person. They just try to use you in their advantage just to kind of.
I think it happens whenever you start to like build a little bit of fame or notoriety, or you hang out with cool people. Yeah. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. I mean, it's a very like listen. It usually means that you're very fortunate and that you've built a great, you've built something that people actually admire, because if not, they wouldn't try and use you. I notice it sometimes with the podcast too, because I get to interview some very cool people.
Yeah.
So you just have to, you just have to make sure that friendships are like honest and they're actually friends. And but I totally understand where you're coming from.
No, but I think you need to be like I've had like I didn't have experience with it, but now I have, and I look at things.
Nobody has experience with that before the first time they have it. Yeah. Like nobody has the experience of somebody using them before it happens the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, fast forward to sort of where you're at now. What are you doing to reinvent yourself now? Like, what are you excited about? What are you working on? What are you sort of, outside of just running the actual shop, which is still obviously killing it, but how do you keep reinventing so that you stay relevant, you stay new, you stay exciting?
Well, at the moment, I try to build a new business because I feel like, and it's been always on my mind too, when I've heard some people speak, they say, don't put all eggs in one basket and stuff like that. I think entrepreneurship as a thing, it comes to, like, this is the only country, I think, in the world where you can be financially free and you can build that as your future. Like, you can make enough money that you can buy real estate or invest money somewhere where the money is going to eventually be working for you. And that's
building true wealth.
That's the ultimate goal. And people that don't understand it, they probably working for somebody. Or, I mean, you can work for somebody, but I think in the future, what changed my mind when I said before about the surgery and stuff, when you don't work, you need something that will work for you, because everything costs money. Everything is expensive. Anywhere you go, like now in New York, you go outside, $100 is gone, or like $300.
Miami's not much better either. Yeah.
And if you just exchanging your hours into the money, but what if you cannot? What if something happens, if you get sick or you're disabled, you got in a car accident, which happened to, like, I hear stories like that because I have a lot of clients, and clients are like, hey, I just got in a car accident and I cannot hear, like I'm paralyzed or something else. But if you're just working a job at a computer, writing something or doing something, exchanging your hours for the money, what if you cannot do that tomorrow? I think this is like everybody should learn and figure out how to make money outside of their job and figure out where they can invest or what they can do when the money is working for them. And I've been, even before I opened a business, I've had an idea that don't put eggs in one basket. You need to have different sources of income. And I have a little source of like a real estate and stuff like that where I put the money, and it's passive income. I don't put much unless something happens. If a major thing happens, like the roof slid off of a house or something else, like you need to put a lot of money into it.
But you own you've purchased real estate? You get somebody to manage it for you, or?
No, I do myself. Really? But it's better to get somebody managed. Like the ultimate goal to automate things that work for you, that you don't have to work. And that's like, I think a lot of people should think that way. And the same with like the industry. If something is hot, if you made something successful, you cannot just be stuck with it, because in 5 years or 4 years, the economy can change. People's mind can change. Everything is so dynamic that when I said in the beginning, when I started marketing, there was no social media, and we studied marketing as like doing a research, sending mail, or putting things as billboard and putting things on a billboard. That's what we learned. But now it's completely different animal. And I think growing yourself in different directions helps with the business, helps with being diverse, because sometimes like you literally have to pivot. Like companies think about a company like Nokia. It was a huge company with the phones, but why they don't make phones anymore? Where are the phones? Because iPhone took over, because they didn't want to adopt and create something different, because maybe it was too much structure in a company and they couldn't agree,
Move too slow, yeah,
or
yeah.
move too slow, whatever. But billion-dollar companies, just like sometimes they vanish.
Blockbuster.
There's so many things. I mean, you can bring up so many things like that, but you have to pivot. And if you made certain amount of money, you need not to put eggs in one basket, because if you slip and fall, those eggs are all gonna break. You need to put money in different things that eventually those things will work for you. I think that this is the only country that allows you to do, because where I'm from, a lot of things controlled by the government. A lot of things, like if I go and open a business in Russia, I mean, I can be an entrepreneur to a certain point, unless I make like $2-3 million, and then the government gets involved.
That's not even by entrepreneurship. It's not even a lot of money. I mean, like in the U.S. I mean, like,
yeah, you cannot buy. It's like a studio apartment in New York City is $1 million. It's insane. So, but in Europe or all other countries, because they're small and they're so controlled by the government, like if you make that money, it's okay. But if you make more, the government is going to come and be like, hey, you work for us now. Especially Russia. Like Russia is like that. If you open a business and a business is popping, you're making a lot of money, at a certain point the government is going to be like, hey, you cannot own this business, you're going to work for us. Because for them, if you gain too much popularity or something else, you can overthrow the government to have some influence on people, and they cannot allow that.
Well, this is what happened with Jack Ma and like the CCP, or like the People's Republic of China, right? Like that's like, he was a billionaire and he was too outspoken, and they didn't like that, and then he disappeared for a little while, and then he came back, and all of a sudden he's not so outspoken anymore. So I get it. Like I also think that, you know, we have to be very like we're so blessed to have the opportunity that we have in the U.S., and like the fact that you can really just do whatever you want to any significant degree. As long as it's legal, you can build whatever you want. You can make any decision you want. You can create businesses that have never existed before. You can quit your job. You can do whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, it really is a blessing. I think that people sometimes forget how the rest of the world works.
But yeah, I've been so I've had some investments in production equipment and stuff like that, and it was basically.
Well, you're into photography as well.
Yeah, I started doing photos because I've had a base of photography in a college when I studied, and then I took the different path. But then I think 2020, when we were closed for, I think it was 4 months or 5 months we were closed, I started kind of watching YouTube videos, because everything became so content related, right? So I was like, let me watch some YouTube of how to make videos, how to make some content. Because before I would hire people, and I paid people a lot of money to do some stuff. So it was like $1,000 for a video, for one small video. And then I was like, what if I buy a camera and just learn some stuff and start doing it myself, just for shop related? And as I got into it, more I dove into learning about it. And like, I feel like if you want to become good, you have to get inside the industry to
immerse
be
yourself
good.
in it.
Like,
yeah.
You cannot just get a small camera and be like, oh, okay, you're good. But I always raise the bar. I always compare myself, and I see somebody who's doing it better. I was like, okay, how did they actually did it? So I started watching all this, watching YouTube videos about videography and content creation, and even like, I don't want to mention, but I did a course for my ex, which was I wanted to make a course into tattooing or running a business as a tattoo shop, which was idea in 2020, but I did as a trial something for somebody else, just as a course, and it worked really well, and we posted it online, and she was making sales like a couple $100 a month just out of like a small short course. But it was for me like a learning path, and then I kind of dove more into it, because everything is more content creation, and then you post on social media, but you're like buying all this equipment and doing all this stuff. So eventually I was like, oh, how do I want to have something so cinematic. I was like, how do I actually get that? So I purchased like an expensive camera, um, and kind of got more and more interest into it within the last 5 years.
But now you have one of the, like, now you have a massive collection of lenses too. So
Yeah,
this is
that
not like you're putting it very lightly when you say you don't, like most people. Most people, when they say they go into it, they buy a couple cameras, they learn how to shoot, they learn lighting, they learn aperture, they learn all the different things that are important for it. But you have now a collection of vintage lenses. So,
but it's for me, it makes me money now, because the initial idea was I start researching, and you look at a movies and you're like, oh, how this is actually shot, and you start reading and figuring things out. Um, so when I was doing some rentals, I was trying to get stuff that nobody has, but actually very valuable. And I think in the last few years, people are looking for something different, because when a camera started developing, it was better sensor, better quality, but everything became the same. So when you look for the same, when there's no imperfections and stuff like that, it just looks the same. And then people are like, let's actually go back to 50s or 60s and take something from there and shoot on that, and
is
then
that like, is that
see
popular
how it
now?
looks. It's so popular because on one side is AI, which makes everything so plastic and so rendered. On the other side, people took lenses from 50s, 60s, 70s, rehoused them in a new housing because the other housing wouldn't hold it, and they shoot movies on it. Like a lot of movies in the last 2 years are shot on film. Why? Because the film, it just looks really good. And then the technology, actually, when we shot on film in 90s, there was no scanners that we have now. So when you shoot on film, you scan it after, but you can scan 16 millimeter film, which is a half of the 35 millimeter, into a 4K, which before couldn't. And then it's much better quality than the camera like this. I mean, it looks much better. And then they shoot movies with that because film itself looks better. It reacts different on the light. So, and like once I dove into something, you start researching, you start seeing, okay, this looks good, but how it was actually made. And you see that a lot of movies and commercials right now, they shot on film, and they put in big budgets because film cost more, but it just looks different. It looks good.
ShipStation is a success story partner. You know what separates successful online businesses from literally everyone else? It's not just having great products. It's delivering an amazing shipping experience that keeps customers coming back. All of my friends that run the biggest e-commerce companies, they use ShipStation, and it has completely transformed how they handle orders. They save thousands on shipping costs thanks to their rate shopper tool that finds the best discounts. And what makes ShipStation brilliant, you never need to upgrade because it grows with your business no matter how big you get. And they offer discounts up to 88% off UPS, DHL Express, and USPS rates, and up to 90% off FedEx. It integrates seamlessly with every selling channel you're already using, and your customers get branded tracking updates to keep them happy and informed. When shoppers choose your products, you turn them into loyal customers with cheaper, faster, and better shipping. No credit card required. Cancel anytime. That's ShipStation.com, code SuccessStory. HubSpot is a success story partner. Now, the future of business is happening right now, and you don't want to miss it. That's why you have to be at Inbound 2025. They are bringing together the brightest minds in marketing, sales, business, entrepreneurship, AI for 3 incredible days in San Francisco, the global epicenter of innovation and technological disruption. Picture this. You are learning directly from Amy Poehler about creative leadership. You're getting AI insights from Dario Amodi, who's literally shaping the future of artificial intelligence. Here's what makes Inbound special. It's not just the great keynotes. You're going to dive into breakout sessions where you can immediately implement what you learn. And plus, San Francisco's legendary startup ecosystem provides the perfect backdrop for networking with all these great entrepreneurs, decision makers, industry leaders, peers who are actively shaping the future of business. From September 3rd to 5th at the Moscone Center, you're going to be surrounded by forward-thinking professionals who turn insights and ideas into breakthroughs. Don't just watch the future unfold, be part of creating it. Visit inbound.com/register to get your ticket today.
What do you think is, so what you're sort of talking about is more of an analog world in terms of like photography, like it's like film as opposed to digital. What do you think we lose as creatives when we move from sort of legacy product, analog, to digital, to I don't know how to describe it. Like with film, every single shot you have to pay attention to because you only have so much film and it costs a lot of money. Digital, it's almost like can be wasteful. We can shoot as many times as we want. It doesn't really matter. So what do you, outside of that idea, what do you think we lose when we move from analog to digital?
So I can start from far away. When I was in college, it was still film photography. And then I feel like after first year, when I was in second year in college, the first digital cameras were introduced. And people switched to it because on film, you have to think so much. It was also expensive, but you need to know so much just to shoot something decent. Which, like, you can shoot a lot of film, but to process it and all that stuff is going to look like shit. If you don't know the exposure, the rules, the laws, how the light works. On digital, when we got the digital cameras, when I first got a digital camera, I would shoot everything. Like, I would, whatever I see, I'm like, oh, let's take a picture of this, let's take a picture. You go on vacation, you shoot everything. And the same with the iPhones, but
you look at my camera roll, it's garbage. There's so much waste.
But then I don't look at those. Like, I'm not gonna scroll through all of this and find something and be like, wow, this is amazing. Once I started diving deeper in photography in 2020, once I got a first film camera in 2022, I started shooting less, but I started thinking more. And it was almost like I would go somewhere, but I would shoot one roll and it's already, only like 36 shots, but each single shot is meaningful. Like, I would go have the scans, put it on my phone, and it brings the memories back, because it was probably the best one memory out of the day that I've shot, or I've seen somebody, or I've been to this amazing sunset and I've shot it, and it's just one photo. Instead of, if I would go and I've been there and I would shoot 200 photos on my digital camera, and I have to scroll through and be like, okay, one is amazing. And then once you switch to that, once you go back to digital, which I try to shoot more digital right now if I do stuff, but I start thinking about it more. I'm not gonna shoot like 200 from each around the subject. I know this looks good, because if I would have film, I'm not gonna shoot 10 shots of just of this. I'm gonna shoot one, and I'm gonna make sure it's good. I'm gonna make sure the emotions are good. I'm gonna make sure it's valuable.
Yeah, it's almost like memories become disposable to a degree because we don't pay attention to when we're actually capturing them.
Yeah, so I think it switched my perspective too, because with the film, each roll is like $20, $23 to buy, and it's only 36 shots. And to process a roll, it's about $20. To process and scan a shot, it's like $40 for only 36 shots. It's money, but you know, people should film because it looks different, and some people would even say it looks amazing. And but once you switch to that mentality, you go back to digital, and digital could be even better than the film. But once you start thinking about it, because you turn that in your brain, because you have all that card space, and you're like, okay, I can shoot every single thing and I can pick the best photo. But once you have 1,000 photos or 2,000 photos for you to go scroll through, especially everybody, right now, everybody's so busy with everything. Like, it's much more busier world than it was even 10 years ago. And I feel like for me, because I'm so busy with business related stuff, something else related stuff, I want to have something valuable as a memory. And I bought a Leica camera like in 2022, and I was like, okay, if I shoot, I'm gonna shoot the best memories. And I've actually started shooting and printing stuff and putting on my walls. People will come to me like, oh my god, this looks amazing, because it scanned really well, and then it looks more natural than a digital, because the digital has so much more in a sensor. Like, I've shot with the studio lights and stuff like that, and I printed, it still looks very plastic. But once you print from a film, from an actual negative, it looks really, really good. It looks like magazine quality. And I've had pictures like this printed on my walls in my apartment, which I look and I was like, sometimes few years pass and I'm like, damn, I did that. Wow. It's amazing. I mean, but I do think it switched my perspective of, and I think it should apply to everything. I mean, like, everything should be thoughtful. Even in tattoos, my friend said a while ago, when I first opened a shop, I was taking a lot of clients, and he said, just think about this. Once you do work, each work in the end should be photographed and be worth to post on your wall. That's what he said. He said to me, don't just do work to have a quality work. Try to do work, aim for better, And I had a book that I just bought. Somebody said like, what, look at this book, and it's photography. I don't like that style, but it said in the beginning of the book, aim for the moon and you'll end amongst the stars. So it was like almost try to strive to create something better, even if it's a small symbol, but you can think, okay, what if I do it to be put on a wall?
Everything you
I could
do,
do it better.
do it to be put on the wall. Do it so that you can, yeah, don't just create to create.
Yeah.
Create with like purpose.
Yeah. And I think that changed my perspective with work in general. I think like you can aim for better, and planning as well. Like people say, when you live with no plan for the business, for yourself, like you can have a plan, doesn't mean that it's going to end up to be that way. But even if you decide to go for a mile, if you even go for 20% or run for like 5 miles, even if you run first time as 20%, you already ran something.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
But if you don't have that plan, it's better than you don't have a plan. You can wake up and you don't have anything in mind where you want to be, and you're like just stuck floating around, I guess.
Do you feel like, well, I was gonna ask, like, what are the lessons from photography that have impacted your tattooing? But I guess that's the answer. It's like be purposeful.
I think also photography itself and tattooing is seeing the light is very important to see the light, see the shapes, see the composition, uh, complementary colors, how colors work in nature, because it applies for tattooing. Because certain stuff, I mean, unless it's a traditional tattoo where it's like three colors used, the black and white, it's one thing. But once you do something color realism, you need to know color theory. And people always say, and I always say, once you do shadows, you mix the tone with the opposite on the color wheel tone to create shadows like that. It looks more natural. It's sometimes scary to mix orange with a purple, but it neutralizes it, creates the gray. Uh, and the same for everything, for photography too. Like if I would set lights, if I would set complementary colors, how we say in a lot of movies it looks really good because it's orange teal. It's two colors complementary. It's colors opposite on a color wheel. When we put the background as a teal color, and your skin can be pushed a little bit to be more orange or too orange, it looks it looks pleasing to the eye. So there's laws with that. So I think a lot of things like that it applies, and the same for the lighting. Like if you take the Renaissance painting, how they call it, Rembrandt lighting, or Hollywood lighting, they call it, right? When there's a triangle on the shadow side and the light is from this angle that goes to you, and they shoot usually from a shadow side, but there's always like a triangle. They call it Hollywood lighting. But look at Caravaggio's paintings. That's how he would set up the lights to paint all these scenes. Like everything is like comes from somewhere. Everything has like um, a whole path of all those things, you know?
Do you feel like photography's made you a better tattoo artist and vice versa?
I think so, yeah.
Do you think like other artists should, I guess the question is, if you're a creative or an artist, does it make sense for you to expand into different mediums to learn new things and new skills?
I think it's hard to sit on, how they say, don't sit on few chairs at the same time. I think it's better to focus on one thing and try to make everything to be better at it. So if you do tattoos, it's good to make art, paint on the side, go to art seminars. But photography right now, it applies to tattooing because first we take photos of our tattoos. Because before we didn't. Now we have to take a good photo of tattoo. And to take a good photo, you need to understand the light. You need to understand how to set up the light, because you want to present that product. And then even more to the advance with all these reels, you need to be a content creator to the point that you need to be able to make the video or understand what people would watch in terms of what kind of video they watch. So it's a lot of things right now involved, but I think it is hard to be maybe a really good photographer and good tattoo artist at the same time, because I feel like you need to constantly do the same thing. You need to put that 10,000 hours, that you need to put the consistent work, because I do shoot photos in a studio and I shoot like once a month. Somebody asks me, but I feel like if I would just shoot the photos at a studio every day, I would be so good at it. I like just need to hit that point of just the hours and that experience, that little things like you see once you work more, you see, okay, like I can ask to turn the head this way, I can put the light that way. uh, it comes more subconsciously when you're in a stressful environment. I think whatever we put it more like imprints in our brain, that we do it with the hands without thinking about it. But once we get thrown in that environment, in a stressful environment, if we don't have that enough of like learning that thing, we're gonna fuck it up, we're gonna mess it up. um, the same with like sports too. Like I've done jiu-jitsu for a while, and I think once they make you do one move constantly, just one move or one escape for like a whole class or like 30 minutes, and you come back after a week and you have to do it again, or they have to review how you learn, because there has to be a muscle memory in the things. Everything, I think, even writing books and doing anything is like a muscle memory. You just have to build it up to the point, um, when you know the basics, you know the laws, and then you can create something yourself.
I love that. And also, like, once you know there's a difference between learning something so that it helps you with your other parts of your work versus learning something to be a master at it. Yeah. Like, for example, you can learn photography, you can learn how to paint, you can learn all these different other sort of artistic mediums, and it can help you as a tattoo artist. But it doesn't mean that you have to become the amazing, best at that thing. You're not going to be, I don't know the names of big photographers, I'm sure you do, but you don't have to be that person who does this for a living. Yeah. Do you think that technology is good or bad for art?
I feel like technology is good for art, because if you take historically people, they were really good artists, they were not recognized, or some people would literally paint amazing things or photograph amazing things. Like a Vivian Maier took photos, and then when she passed, somebody discovered all these photos in the apartment. She became famous. But
that's many artists, by the way.
Yeah, and it's many artists back then. And I feel like now with the technology and just becoming viral, or being able to post something and people can see in other parts of the world, that is amazing. I feel like before was like a label to an artist, that artists are alcoholics, artists are always broke, they're always starving. It's not like a good path. The parents would take it that way. Hey, like you need a real job, you need to be a lawyer, doctor, something else to make the money. But because we have so much tools that are free to be exposed to big audience, we can hit that big audience painting something, and we can sell prints, we can make art gallery, we can go to other country and make an art show, where before, when there was no technology, people even wouldn't know. Like, yeah, that's true. It was only if it was spoken, or newspapers, or people, if people start talking about something, there was people that got known. But there's so many artists back in the day that just painted in their house, and whatever, they died they died alcoholics, they died broke, and nobody knew. And then somebody discovered, and they're like, holy shit. And then all their stuff sold for billions of dollars now
after they're dead.
Yeah, but it would be beneficial if those people wouldn't have to live like that. Which maybe, I don't know, there's always like, a fight of your flesh and your soul. Like the artist has to be spiritual in a sense to be able to create something bigger. So I think maybe being in pain or struggling push people to create something.
Yeah, I was curious if you think that like people become less proficient at their craft if life's too good.
Because even nowadays, like you think about martial arts, people like Conor McGregor, once he got what he wanted, or he got the money, he doesn't train as hard. He cannot fight anymore to a top level. But if you take back in the day when there was no social media, and you cannot get that fame like Mike Tyson or somebody else, when there was no money that you can make right now based on social media, or like Julio Chavez when he had like 200 whatever fights. Now it's like 2-3 fights, and then if you're good, you can become so famous that sponsors will pay you so much money that people never made before. So beneficial of technology, but it also ruins probably the passion, because once you have that money, your lifestyle changes, your patterns change, you do other things, and maybe you want to do other things because, like, if you just have to hustle just to pay the bills, even if you're amazing at what you do, it's like one thing. But once you have an access to all of this, then you can do so much more. You can learn something else. And
I mean, personally, have you ever lost your edge because of success?
no, I never did. But I also don't know what it is to, like, if I would ever make like $20 million, I don't know what it is to feel that way. I mean, I was working for somebody and barely paying bills, and then I made this amount of money that uh, had some real estate purchased. I bought a house for my parents, like stuff like that. But it's all, it was like a hard work for a long period of time that I feel like I deserve
It
the
was
amount
never
of work
F
that I
you, never
put.
work again money. It was never F you like
Yeah.
money, one check that.
Yeah, if I would even have an opportunity like that, that's different. I don't know how I would feel, or the person I would be, but I do know that when people get into that position, their surroundings change, the people, how they take them, like everything changes around them. So I don't know.
Did your did your parents ever like come to terms with what you do for a living?
My parents hated it first. My parents were making fun of it, and when I first started tattooing, I was still doing graphic design on the side. I was building websites. I worked for some companies. I actually did a website for uh, Formula One racer. And like, I've had really good clients that would pay me a lot of money, but my parents were like, "Oh, you're just doing this just as a hobby. You should get a real job. You should maybe get another degree." And my until I moved to New York and until I made the money that I bought a house for my parents, it was like in 2015, I think. Once I did that, and once I started like sending money to support my mom or my dad, uh, they were like, "Hey, you have a good opportunity. You live in states. It's good, good education. You should, maybe the money you make, you should invest in, like, on the free time, just get another degree." That's what they would tell me, like.
So they still can't get out of the way that they look at the world, because even if you're making money, they're still thinking,
No, but now
go
they
get a degree just in
now
case.
they don't, because like after I bought a place for myself and all other stuff, I own the business. But for a long time, even I was making a decent amount of money, they still were like, "Hey, why don't you get a stable job and something that you can rely on for the rest of your life, and then retire?" Um, I mean,
That never threw you off, them not sort of being okay.
it did throw me off for sure, but I don't know. I feel like when I was still in a high school, I wanted to live on my own because I've had a big family, and it was like a lot of people in a household, and always try to hang out with people that are successful. I always hang out with people that are older. I've had people that own businesses, they're friends, and I was in like 18s or 20s, and people will take me on a trips, and people who own construction companies or something else, and made like, I don't know, $1 million a year back then, and like would consider me a friend because I knew certain things that they didn't have anybody around. Like, I knew, like, how to do web development, how to do graphic design, and certain
So
things
you had
about
other people.
marketing. So they were interested in that skill because they didn't have it. So I was helping them to do those things, but they wanted to hang out with me just for like maybe like a helpful exchange. But I've been around those people and seen uh, different type, like different success from early age, because my both parents, like my dad worked as a professor at a university. He worked as a teacher and then worked as a professor at a university, teaching technology and math for all his life, for like 50 years, until he was pushed to retire. But he never did stuff for himself. He just worked for a check and got a check, and then that's it, and then get pushed out. And then my mom, because there was three kids that she had, she couldn't work for a certain time, and she had a really good job before my younger sister was born. But when my younger sister was born, she was like, "Oh, I have three kids. I don't have any time." So she had to quit the job. And when she tried to go back in 2000s, to get a job back, it was a completely different world. Everybody was already computers. It was everything in a system automated, and she worked as an accountant before, for a huge government thing, for the spaceship company. And then once in 2000 she tried to go back, they're like, sorry, we cannot take you, even you have experience with working this. They're like, you have to go and get at least 4 or 5 years of education
To catch up.
to catch up, and then you can go back. And she was like, holy shit, 4 or 5 years, I have to pay for education. So she never did. She did a little bit of like half a year or a year, and then worked jobs here and there. But it's still a mentality, I think.
If you were going to just walk through, so I want the audience to sort of, they've learned a lot, but I want them to learn sort of, say, a lesson or a failure that you've experienced that you wouldn't wish anybody else would ever have to go through, but it was a very valuable lesson for you. What would that moment be? And it can be, it doesn't have to be in business, it can be, but something that you think you learned quite a bit from, that you think somebody else hopefully will never have to experience firsthand.
I think in life everything should be balanced. Like sometimes, and me personally, I have a lot of issues with that. Um, I would basically throw myself into work, and I just overwork myself. Like I would get into something and I know that I could do more. So I could basically go and work 7 days a week, but it does huge impact on the mental health. I think everything should be balanced. Why I started doing photography? Because I needed something to take my mind off. And once your mind is into a business, if you want a business to succeed, you just put all your resources, all your energy into it. And there is a negative impact into your body from that, which you might not feel in the beginning, but in a certain period of time, it's going to hit you, and it can hit really hard. And some people that did jobs for many years, sometimes they just fall sick and then they cannot work anymore or something else. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned from owning a business. I think you need to balance things, and sometimes going less is going more in the long term. Sometimes like pushing more or going forward more could end up that you wouldn't be able to do that anymore. And um, I think balancing your life, if you have a family or if you having a hobby, it's good to take your mind off. If you're trying to do a business, I think some days you just have to be completely off the phone. You like my why I started doing like street photography that I really enjoy. I would take a camera, I just go outside. I'm not looking at a phone. I'm not doing anything. I'm like, okay, for 3 4 hours, I'm just gonna walk around and find something interesting and take photos, because I was working so much first few years, then I started getting sick a lot, and then
You notice your body shutting down?
yeah, and I was like, when it first started happening, I was like, okay, I just go take antibiotics, because I was like getting sick with like a flu or cold like consistently, but I was putting so much work because I was like, oh, I'm here, but I can do even more. So you're like, I'm the only me. I have this time, but it also, I think it should be that everybody needs to learn that you can hire people to do the jobs that they can do, but you pay them less money because your time is more valuable for the money that you make. So you don't have to clean your house when you can hire somebody for $10 an hour to clean your house. Because if you clean your house, unless you're enjoying it, if you clean your house, you're going to take half a day to do it. But in the same time, you can do something more valuable or spend time with your family. And I think things in your life should be very balanced that way. I think if you just throw yourself into something, and even if it's going well, it can end up like hurting yourself or doing something bad.
Yeah, because you kind of just get distracted by like the short-term wins.
Yes. And I think sometimes like little steps is even better steps forward, because in a long term it's gonna be better. But I also think like if there's opportunities, and you see opportunities, it's better to take them, because you can regret them later. And somebody told me a long time ago, I mean, if you don't knock on the door, I've had a guy when I met, I was like in my 20s, and he was very successful. He did construction, and he told me, it was a long time ago, but it stuck to me. Um, he said that he was trying to do business, and he was from a poor family. He was trying to make a lot of money and be rich, and he tried many things. And he said it's better to ask, because of, like, if you have ideas, it's better to try and to ask people and to learn from people, because if you're afraid, like, you're just gonna be thinking about it that you never tried. But if you try, even if you fail, you failed. But sometimes you try and you succeed. And he was like, when he finished his university, he said, I was just knocking on everybody's door because I want to be successful. He was like, I got into this, I was selling elevators, it failed. I was doing this, it failed. I was doing this, it failed. And then he did a construction company, got a lot of connections, and he was doing a lot of money. He was making millions of dollars off that. But he said, I failed so many times. I had debt, I had people that are pissed off, I had this and this. But you learn from your mistakes. And I think, um, like, in my life, a lot of stuff was like learning here and there from different people that have been around. And um, I think it, since like an early age, I kind of seen how these people, because of what they're successful, the patterns and all other stuff. But I also think you can hire people to do other things for you. And like, uh, for people, don't spread themselves thin. Like, you can, if you want to do marketing research, if you want to do something else, you can hire people, outsource them from other countries.
You can learn a little bit, yeah. So you can learn a little bit, fail, but also at the same time you have to balance that. Two things can be true at the same time. So it's good for you to learn and fail. At the same time, it's also good for you to delegate responsibilities. You don't do everything yourself. So it's a balance. I think that also, like for entrepreneurs, it's important to try and learn. And if you do fail, at least you've learned a little bit, so that you can now, when you hire people to help, you make a better hiring decision.
You see what's good.
You see what's good, yeah.
And I also read a thing, when you hiring somebody to do the job, it's better to write the steps, exact steps they have to do to make that happen, to make the product or to make the job. Because if you say, hey, create me a website, or like, hey, write this article that I need to post on a blog. But if you put the exact steps, if you put, I want to write this blog, but for me, if I would do it, I would go and do a research on the internet based on this topic and based on another. I would put every single step, and they would do a good job that you would do. But if you just write a task without explaining it, or without the steps to create that task, then it wouldn't be valuable, or it wouldn't apply to your business, because you see it a different way, but you cannot express yourself, you cannot explain how you want it to be. And sometimes you just throw it out there as a task, and you hire somebody and they do a shitty job, and you're like, shit, I paid this person money, but I have to redo it and do it myself. Which, like, I learned sometimes is better for me to do it, but it also, I don't have much time, but it's, you have to find that balance and try to explain it better for people
That communication is huge, yeah.
that are doing it.
What would be the most important thing that you've had to unlearn?
I try not to attach myself to things. It's like a hard thing, but we get attached to people, to habits, to something else. I try not to.
I think that's human nature, to be honest.
Yeah, I try not to attach to things, because like, pets will die, and we love them so much, but it's like a thing. But like, I think switching up, like, you literally, like, if you have a same pattern of something, I think switching things up is a good thing. Like, you have to kind of unlearn to falling into the same pattern of life, because you would learn and get comfortable somewhere. Like, I have friends that I just see it, maybe because my brain works differently, but I see people that are like, they try things, they find what works for them. Like, even food, like, they would find a restaurant, and they would go there because they eat, the service is good, it makes them feel good, but they're like, fall into this pattern that they're scared to try something else, because
That
they're
goes
like,
with life, with people, with relationship, with rest,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
And then they're like, everything is well, everything is good for them, they feel comfortable, but they're just going with the flow, I guess. And if in my experience, I just seen it, because I've been to different countries, people like that, when something happens, it could happen as like an accident, or they can get sick or something else, like somebody dies. It throws them off.
They're not resilient.
But
Yeah,
they cannot adjust to that situation, and they end up not well, or they end up going to therapy or something else for a long time, or something happened, they like get on drugs or whatever, because
they completely derail.
they don't know how to deal with it. But
Yeah, yeah.
once you unlearn that, once you just try to like,
Detach.
yeah, you detach from things, but you kind of, you can adapt to anywhere or to anything. I think it's a good thing, it's a good skill. Especially for me, like I come from a country where I feel more comfortable than being here. Like I still, for I've been here 15 years, I still feel like if I go back there I feel more comfortable. Like I know the culture, I understand the people, I know how the food, I know how the system works, I know how everything works, and I have less stress, as like the mental stress that is in my head, than being here. Because here I feel like I don't have any family, and I'm always attacked that I have to pay the bills. I'm like, something can happen, or this and this and this and 10 million things. Um, but I think it changed me as a person. And the same with the business. Like maybe it's comfortable for me to go and work for somebody, because if I own my own business, I have to pay rent, which is way more than I if I'm working for somebody, or way more than I'm paying for my apartment. And then I have responsibilities of having employees that I have to pay, and I have to provide the people who work for me work and find the work for them. So it is more comfortable for me to go for a company and have stable money that I know, maybe build my name and work there. But once I've thrown myself into uncomfortable, into this crazy waterfall, and I kind of readjust and learn how to swim, I kind of feel less scary with other people. Like I go into something that is unknown and I don't feel scared, or I go meet somebody, or I speak with somebody who can be, I don't know, a billionaire. And I mean, I feel comfortable speaking with them because it changed me as a person. And I think I approach things different way, and I had that experience in me, which I think is a good thing.
If people want to connect with you, if people actually want to go to the shop, where should they go? So socials, everywhere you want to send them.
So shop is called First Class Tattoos. It's on 52 Canal Street in Manhattan. They can go follow us, First Class NYC, on Instagram. We also have a website where we have some works. And my personal Instagram is Mikhail Andersson, with the two S's. You can see it's like tattoos all over my page, so you can.
I'll put everything in the show notes too, so people can just click through. But
sounds good.
then the last thing that I always like to ask, so you've given over like a lot of different bits of wisdom, but say out of your life you can only pass on one lesson to your kids. It's the most important lesson. What would that lesson be, and why?
I think the biggest thing is not to like take care of your health from the early age. I think that's probably the biggest lesson I want the kids or everybody to learn. Yeah, and I think that teaching that the kids, because the school or anything else, it doesn't teach the kids that. But I think uh, if you want your kids to live in the world, I think teaching them the finances and the money is a big thing. But I think the most important thing is health, because uh, once you don't have health, every like it becomes the main problem for anybody. Like that's the main focus. You cannot enjoy your life. You cannot do many things that you could have done. So I think taking care of eating healthy, exercising, taking care for yourself, for your mental health, and all that stuff, I think is in my opinion, is the most important advice.